Hello, this is Mr. Smith, otherwise known as Teach Smith on YouTube. This is Power Conflict Poetry Lesson 1, Introduction. This is for current Year 9 students of Reigate School, the week commencing the 1st of June 2020 after the half term, though of course students of other schools are welcome to watch this video. So a bit of context behind the Power and Conflict Poetry Anthology will be examined in the English Literature Paper 2. Unfortunately, it is closed book. That means there are no anthologies in the exam hall. The anthology is of 15 poems. However, it is important not to become anxious about the fact that there are 15 poems. It is not about knowing every word of every line of every poem. The key word is anthology. What do I mean by this? Well, anthology means a collection chosen by someone, in this case by the exam board. Most important to understand is how each poem explores a form of power or a form of conflict or both. And we'll come to explore in this lesson what we mean by forms of power and forms of conflict. Once you've understood how each poem explores power or conflict, you then need to understand how they compare and contrast to each other as a collection. There are relationships between the poems. They can be clustered in different ways, they can be grouped in different ways, they can be compared and contrasted in different ways. Technically speaking, every single poem can compare to each other. However, there are definitely clusters and themes around power and conflict that allow certain poems to be compared more easily. Now, firstly, what forms of power could the poems explore? What I would like you to do is think about all the different forms of power that there are in the world. So start by thinking about all the forms of power and authority that you have in your life. Who has power over you in your life? Who has authority over you in your life? Who or what has power or authority over other people in society? I would like you to please pause the video now and mind map different bodies, organizations, groups, officials that have power over you or have power over other people. Okay, so I will not read all of these out, but these forms of power will be explored in the poems. Not all of the poems, and not every single one in every poem, of course. But just to give you a few examples, the monarchy, perhaps not so much in this country, but certainly in the past in this country and in other countries around the world, the monarchy is a very, very powerful entity. Of course, think about the power of nature, natural forces, how nature and natural forces can have power over us. So take a moment now just to think about all of the different forms of power on this list. Have I missed any? Maybe you can add other forms of power into the comments or message me or your English teacher on Show My Homework. Think about also the more abstract forms of power. So trauma. When someone goes through trauma, you can argue very strongly that that trauma then has a power over them. Hopefully not forever, but it certainly does. Think about the power someone's imagination can have over them. And of course, the power of parents. I'm sure that a lot of you are aware of that. Similarly, can you now think of the different forms of conflicts that the poems could explore? So think about big conflicts, small conflicts. How do we get into conflict? What do we mean by conflicts? Essentially different forms of battles. So again, I've thought of another list of conflicts. So more obvious ones like wars. Think about the world wars, the Iraq war, the Afghanistan conflict. Things like revolutions, tyranny. So people in authority can cause conflict through violence. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of conflict of people with different religious beliefs and continues to be so. Again, similar to natural forces, violent storms could almost be seen as a conflict. Think about the conflicts between the older versus the younger generation, perhaps neither feeling like they understand each other. Moral dilemmas are very, very powerful conflicts as well. What we've decided to do as an English department is teach you a cluster of conflict poems, a conflict cluster. So 3 poems that we want you to know in depth before the summer break. The first one is Charge of the Light Brigade. This was written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. It's a poem based on a cavalry charge during the Crimean War, and this would be the first poem that you will be studying. The second poem, some of you may remember from Year 8. It's Exposure, written by Wilfred Owen between 1917 and 1918, a poem about the First World War. The third poem is Remains by Simon Armitage, written in 2007, a poem about a soldier in Iraq. So what are the similarities between these poems, do you think, just from the information I've given you, and what could the differences be? Again, have a pause and have a think, maybe mind map ideas or bullet point ideas. Similarities and differences. The similarities and differences. All of them explore conflicts. This is a conflict cluster. They are all based on an actual historical conflict. So the Crimean War, the First World War, and the Iraqi War. All of them describe the experience of actually being in a war zone. The differences, they're from different wars, different time period, different attitudes to war. You may not have picked up on this, of course, just from the titles. And only one of the 3 was written by the soldier himself. So only Exposure by Wilfred Owen was written by the soldier in war. Tennyson and Armitage are poets describing the battles or the experiences from accounts they have been given. So Year 9, I hope this video has been helpful and informative. If anything has been unclear, please send a message over Show My Homework to either me or to your English teacher. I'll leave you with this question. Have a look at this image. This is an image depicting a painting depicting the events of the Charge of the Light Brigade. From this image, I just want you to think about, maybe bullet point, maybe mind map if you'd like to, what might have happened during the Charge of the Light Brigade. How do you think it went? Who was involved? How violent was it? How serious was it? Have a think about that, and that will help you to prepare for annotating the poem next week. In the middle of the week, a video will be set for you on further context of the Charge of the Light Brigade, the actual historical event, and then towards the end of the week, you will be set a writing task. Thank you very much for watching. This is Mr. Smith, also known as Teach Smith.